Hello, good morning. So I had a pretty crazy dream, a pretty wild one that was kind of fun this morning. I'm gonna see if I can try to remember it all, but the beginning is it's fading a bit. But I'm just gonna take a moment to just try to remember it. Okay. So, in this dream, I was a pilot. At first, I was just, I was a pilot for an airliner. Not sure which company, but I was just flying all over the world to different cities, and okay, sorry. The beginning of it is probably really early in my dream and just kind of got wiped out. But I remember from this point, and what was happening was there was like a big storm that was happening, and the world was basically kind of coming to an end, and I think everybody kind of knew it. It was this massive storm with lots of wind, and the skies were just dark, and I thought, I have to get my family out of here and my friends. So I guess what I did was I invited them all on this aircraft. I don't know if it was my personal one. I don't know if it was, a commercial airliner. I don't know. But I kind of gathered everybody, and we got on this plane. And, I had some sort of satellite communication to, I'm not sure, maybe it was command, or it was beyond command. I was talking to something or someone else. But this whole time I'm trying to get to this destination. But I can't seem to do it because due to time, the storm's getting stronger and more violent. So for me to even just travel through the storm was taking a lot of fuel and a lot of time. So then, I think a lot of my dream was just traveling, just trying to power through this storm. And where it kind of got interesting was, I kept trying and I couldn't do it because the storm was getting stronger and time was just passing by, and I needed to get to this destination, because I think when I get there is when we really start to get out of Earth. And so hold on, I'm just gonna try to think. Okay. I'm not, it's kind of hazy at this point, but I start to remember the dream where, the command or whoever I'm talking to says, okay, you have to fly to this point and do these series of events. And the next thing I knew, it felt like I was traveling through this time warp or through another dimension or something. Like the walls were kind of closing in, and it felt like, I don't know if anyone has heard of this game, but it's kind of like Star Fox. For either the Nintendo 64, or it actually felt more like the Super Nintendo Star Fox, where everything was, kind of very primitive and very blocky, and things were narrow. Like I had to fly through obstacles, like things were moving in real time, like I had to adjust to the changing environment, and it was changing very, very rapidly, very quickly. So, either things were becoming very short, or like I would have to maneuver up and down, so I had to fly through these obstacles, and it was just white. Like this light was it was white, and like a very bright light in front of me, and everything around me was either white or it was very light. Like, it didn't feel like Earth anymore. I was just flying through. It's kind of like a tunnel, it was like I don't know if it was like a black hole, or it was something weird. So I kept flying through this, and it felt like it was never gonna end. And all of a sudden, it's just like, after flying through this for a while, it just became, I think it was like a solid white, and I was like, oh, where am I? And I remember that command. It's like, okay, are you here? Are you almost here? I'm like, I don't know where I am. And they said, okay, well, you're completely out of time. The only thing you can do is this. And so it's like, get to this point. And I'm like, I don't even know where I am right now. And command's like, now you have to switch on your plane to use all the fuel you have to go. It's kind of like turbo on a plane. And so I flipped the switch, and my jet or my plane just blasts off. And at this point, I'm not really sure if I'm even controlling it anymore or what. But I got to a point where I see something. I see like this. It looked like almost a drone. Like it was some sort of aircraft that wasn't. I don't think it was powered by an actual driver. It was very narrow. It almost looked like a military scout plane, or that takes photographs of the Earth or space or whatever. But it looked like a needle. Like it was a really narrow, small plane, and it was just kind of freely hovering around. And this thing is fast. When it needs to travel, it much faster than the way that I'm traveling. So it's just kind of hovering around, and I hear commands saying, follow that plane. And so it was really fast, so I did my best to try to follow it. And eventually it just kind of wisped into the air, like it vanished. And so I had to follow it. And when I got to this point, my plane vanished too. Like, we just disappeared. And so that plane knew what it was doing. It was just kind of, it took us to, I think, another black hole or something. Like, we traveled really fast. And finally I got to this space-aged, Gita, that's my cat. So we got to this space-aged cafe or something, and pilots, it seemed like pilots or something were just having coffees there. And at this point, now I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about this. But I see people drinking coffee, but they don't see me. I'm still in my plane. and I'm just observing. Like, there's no doors, no windows. You know, if you look down, if you look up, like, I'm in the clouds, you know. This is, like, it's something that I've never seen before. It's just like a floating cafe. Everybody is, you know, dressed in white, and we're just kind of sitting on a cloud. There's servers, and, you know, people seem to be waiting for something. And I hear from commands like, go to this specific location. And when I get there, it's like a family. They're having a coffee or something. And they're like, at this point, I'm like, what do I do? And no one's really telling me what to do. They're like, just get to this family, get to this location. I'm like, okay, I'm here. Like, what do I do? And, you know, communication starts to get, what's it called? There's like interference, and I can barely hear them anymore. It's like, get to this point, and that's all you have to do. You're almost there. And so when I get there, I see this plane, this other aircraft waiting as well. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? And so I get closer to it. And then as I get closer to it, command starts to, you know, I can hear them again. They're like, get to this plane. It's like, zzz, get to this plane and be under the plane. Make sure you're close to this plane, as close as possible. So I go to this aircraft, this plane, and, you know, as I get closer to it, it's already starting to take off. So I'm like trying to stay as close as possible to it. And, you know, it was no ordinary plane. It was something weird. And so I try to stay as close to as possible. And it's already flying away. It's taking off. And I'm just trying to keep up. And at this point I realized that I was already too late. Everything was already going. Like, wherever I needed to go, this was my last chance. It was this plane. This was the last and final plane. And so I couldn't keep up. You know, I just watched the plane disappear in front of my eyes. It was just traveling way too fast for the aircraft that I was traveling. Well, the aircraft I was in, I just couldn't keep up with that pace. So it disappeared. It just turned into like a spot, and it just boom, disappeared. And our plane were like, no, you know, that was our final ticket. And the command's like, what happened? Where are you? And I said, I saw the plane and didn't make it. And they said, okay, that was your last chance to get away on an aircraft, but it's not your last chance to get away. And they said, what you have to do is fly into the cup. Fly into the cup of the people who are drinking coffee or whatever they're drinking. And I said, what? And they said, yes, you have to make sure you fly into the cup. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, just do it. So there's like a family, that same family, having coffee. So what I ended up doing was I flew into their cup. And, you know, as I flew in, I started to melt into small molecules, or like the buildup of the actual drink. Like, we just vaporized into liquid form. And, you know, at this point I've lost sight of everybody. All I know is that I'm just in my little bubble floating in this cup, and I can observe, what's kind of happening. I can see outside the cup, and I see the brother, like this giant hand, just come and pick up the cup and start to drink it. And I'm like, oh, we're gonna travel through these people who already have arrived, or they're already traveling there. So we're gonna be ingested, we're gonna be consumed into their bodies, and that's how we're gonna get out of here. And so my only hope is that everybody made it, everybody is in this cup, and I'm like, I hope this guy finishes his drink. If he doesn't finish it, we're not going. If he finishes it, we're there. And so, the next thing I knew, my dream was over. And I woke up, I'm like, wow, that's some interstellar stuff going on. That's really cool. I like dreams like that. It was, I'm sorry, I didn't really remember too much of the in-betweens and some of the stuff that happened in the beginning, but when I was in it, it felt unreal. I really felt like I was in like a different dimension, just trying to escape. It was a wild dream, but a lot of fun. And I'm glad I captured a bit of it, but I know that there are some pieces missing. Anyway, thanks for listening. Bye-bye.